Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's special edition of Hashkafa Hotline with Rabbi Bechhofer. So we have to, as I said in the notifications for tonight's presentation, the circumstances force us to open with a bit of a monologue before we take your questions, and I trust your questions will also be on topic. We hopefully everyone had a inspirational Shavuos, but then celebrating it as much as we can against the backdrop of Corona, and we awakened, for lack of a better word, to a sad reality as soon as Shavuos was over. To the post George Floyd world. Protests, rioting, looting, and we have to understand what our Kodesh Baruch Hu is trying to tell us. Chazal say, even in general, Ein Puranius ba la'olam ela b'shvil Yisrael, right? Anything bad that happens in the world happens only for Klal Yisrael. It happens that we should, so even if it's not happening to us directly, we have to anyway see what the message is, because the message is always for us. So any calamity happens anywhere in the world, if we hear about it, we have to seek a message. It's Hashem sending us a message of things that we have to correct. And this is true even if something will be happening far, far away in a different country, let alone that these things are happening right under our nose, and who knows how many of us or our fellow Jews have been directly impacted by these lootings and riots. And the looting and riots is not even the real danger, as we will explain. Now, this is not a coincidence. We have to look. It is our responsibility to try to understand what Hashem is trying to tell us. That we go straight from COVID-19, and just when it just looked like we were turning the corner on that, kind of, sort of, depending on the state that you live in. And that whole thing also, and we still have to understand what the lesson in that was, and is. And just that's barely over, and here we are with the whole George Floyd riot. What is going on? Okay, because of the crazy situation that we're in here, sometimes self-evident truths cannot be taken for granted anymore. So, and everyone is, for anything, is being accused of being a racist or something like that. So therefore, necessity forces us to point out the obvious, okay? We're going to say it anyway. All right, so first and foremost, we are in shock and we are appalled at the unnecessary death of George Floyd. What exactly should happen to the police officers is in the hands of the judge and jury. We are not judge, we're not jury. But we do know that he was already cuffed. He was already subdued, and seemingly that shoulder, that knee on neck, was totally uncalled for. It seems, right? Like we said, we're not the judge, we're not the jury, but if it is what it looks like, we obviously condemn that. Right? And we, the Jewish people, right, are the ones that taught the world the value of life, right? And also in our code of law, which also we have laws addressed to the Gentiles, the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. So in our laws, and particularly in the laws that the Torah addressed to them, the Torah is very specific that if you could save yourself from an attacker without taking his life, you are obligated to do so, right? And by the Bnei Noach, it is a chiyuv misa, someone who could have easily protected himself by decapacitating the person without taking his life, and didn't. He went straight to take the person's life, even though it was technically in self-defense. Right? He gets the death penalty. The Bnei Noach get the death penalty for that. We have said in the past, in this forum and in others, that we are all in favor of the idea of body cams on cops. We are all in favor of that. And any time that a cop took a life of a person from a distance, when the person was not shooting at him, it must go to immediate review to see whether the killing him was absolutely necessary or not. And if it wasn't, he has to pay the price. Right? We are very strong advocates of that. It is what our Torah says is the halacha even for Jews. And by the Bnei Noach, it's considered murder one, that a person took a life when it was not necessary and he could have defended himself in another way. So let that be clear, okay? Make no mistake about that, right? But Judaism also says everyone's entitled to be tried, and no one should be lynched. Everyone has to be, once the action happened already, has to get due process, right? So we condemn any unnecessary taking of any life, and we also once it has happened, the perpetrator is entitled to their day in court and must be convicted by due process. Okay. So now that having been said, right. We certainly don't think that because one cop did it, even if he is found to be guilty, is indicative of all policemen. That's ridiculous, right? And it does not. And if he took a life, it doesn't necessarily mean he was a racist. It means he murdered a human being. He may have murdered the person, no matter what his skin color is. So this is not. One cannot extrapolate out from a single incident anything. Beyond what was actually witnessed. A. B. And we cannot take out of it any type of idea of racism. Right? What does it make what the skin color was? A knee on the neck is a terrible thing, whether it's a white man or a black man. Right? And we cannot extrapolate out from that all cops are bad or that there's systemic racism in the United States. All ridiculous. And that's the problem over here. And that is the biggest adversity that we face. And that is the much bigger danger than the looting, as we will explain. But I want to take a step back. Right? And we said this, simple truths, okay? That this is happening, we're not even over COVID-19 and this hits, right? And there is a common denominator that we will explain in a second that's obvious to any thinking person who looks at this analytically and honestly, right? But what immediately has to, ring an alarm bell is that not too long ago, just 2 weeks ago, right? Coming up on 3 weeks ago, right? We read Parshas Bechhofer, right? And the Torah warns us that if we will go bekeri, right? If we say, we don't take things seriously, take things as it comes, That's the way the cookie crumbles, as if God is not making any demands from us, right? And bad things happen, and we kind of shrug it off. Okay, what do you want? These things happen, right? So HaKadosh says, "I'll go b'chamas keri, it'll be 7 times as worse." Right? If you don't do tshuva after this one, shrug it off. I'm going to bring it else, and it's going to be 7 times as worse. And then someone has to wonder, We were dealing with COVID-19 for over 7 weeks, right? Over 7 weeks. 7 being the big number over there, repeats itself sevenfold, sevenfold. And can't say we fixed COVID-19 because the proof is that Hashem didn't take it away yet. Right? If we would have done tshuva, we would have taken it away. Right? Right? Chazal say, Makos choloim roim v'ne'emonim. Hashem will afflict you with, there's a pasuk in Parshas Kisavo, the other tochacha. Right? Hashem will afflict you with bad, trustworthy illnesses. What's trustworthy have to do with it? Ne'emonim? No, the Yisurim are ne'emonim. They're trustworthy. You do not get inflicted 1 millisecond longer than what you deserve. So even if, God forbid, a person didn't do tshuva, but he got full atonement because he refused to do tshuva, or he didn't wake up, right? The calamity ends. The calamity ends. It doesn't continue for 1 second longer. Interestingly enough, the Gemara in Avodah Zarah says that this is the secret of success of all these people that sell you snake oil, or these, witch doctors or babas. They took away your sickness. They took away your calamity. Rabbi Akiva says this, right? Says, we know Avodah Zarah is nothing. And Goy asked him, Avodah Zarah is nothing, but it seems to work. Because when I go to my Avodah Zarah, which I don't even really believe in, my problems go away. And Rabbi Akiva answered him, right? When God punishes you, He's not going to punish you 1 ounce longer than what you deserve. It says what you deserve if you do tshuva. Obviously you deserve less. It gets taken away quicker. And if you want to go the long way around, you get your penalty, and that's it. You don't suffer 1 second longer than your penalty. So if you went to your Avodah Zarah, or you took your snake oil, right, and you happen to have timed it, that you did it a minute before your stuff was up anyway, so God's not going to continue your suffering 1 minute longer than what you deserve. So you timed it just right inadvertently, that you went to your Avodah Zarah, you took your snake oil right before your pain was about to go away anyway. Right? Hashem is so strict about divine justice that no one will suffer unnecessarily for 1 millisecond longer than what he deserves, and that's why, because things go away like that, right? Sadly, that justice could, con men could say, claim he took away your problem. It was scheduled to go away that 2 weeks later after you saw him, right? Okay, but the point for us is that obviously we have not fixed COVID-19. If it's still out there. Question whether it's out there for real or it's out there because the same people that will keep us on lockdown and keep us scared of it haven't let go yet, even though they've moved on, right? So we have been sadly bekeri and not done tshuva shlema for COVID-19, and now we've stepped into something easily 7 times worse. And we're going to discuss this. We're going to discuss what this has to do with the fact that it's happening now. It all happened around the time of Shavuos, right? Because there is a definite message here. But to show that there's definitely a continuation from one to the other, right? And it's shocking, and I hate saying it because I shudder when I say it. The common denominator between the two, which the latter of what we're going through right now is 7 times worse than COVID-19, right? Easily 7 times worse, is the collapse of society, right? Social distancing, so we disassembled, society. We cannot band together in a Beit HaKnesset, right? Which means a gathering place, Knesset, Knossos Kol Yehudim, right? Society's been disbanded, which includes the disbanding of the economy. People have to get together. People have to go to work. People have to get together and do business, right? And we spoke about this repeatedly in this forum, that we have to look into ourselves, what we have to fix, that our culture was collapsing society. And the president is darn right, right? The cure is worse than the disease, right? And that's becoming clearer and clearer as the real numbers come out, that more damage may have been done to society from the social distancing than if we would have not social distanced. There are numbers coming out right now that we were needlessly scared into a state of, the state that we're in right now, which was, fertile ground for the continued collapse of society, right? And that's exactly what's going on right now, right? Under the righteous banner, the Chazal tell us is the pig. The pig has one siman kashrus, an external one, right? Not an internal one. He does not chew his cud. The Maral says this: if the pig would chew its cud, it would show some sign of goodness on the inside. His kashrut sign is on the outside, right? His split hooves. It's on the outside. It's totally external, and it's for exhibition. Hide under righteous banner, right? Under the split hooves. Split hooves is an excuse. It's a playing card. Exhibitionist righteousness, virtue signaling. It's under a virtue signaling of trying to correct systemic racism. We are the dissolving of society is now moving towards a total collapse of society. A total collapse, right? And it's shocking. People of influence are going to abolish police, period, right? So the fact that they're looting and pillaging and getting away with it with impunity, as if anyone, none of them knew George Floyd, right? They're getting away with it with impunity, right? But there's the much larger, right, thing about abolishing police, defunding police, right? Using it to be the reason to put a bona fide senile person in the office of President of the United States. This is all frightening. It is a real push to collapse society, right? And that's what Kerry means. Kerry means that there's no order, right? It's all coincidence, collapse of order. And I'll tell you why, right? Order comes from Hashem. There's a master. Yesh din v'yesh dayan. There's justice, and there's a master of the universe. They want to collapse all semblance of order because all semblance of order ultimately causes a person to think, why is there order? Right? Because there must be a great master and arranger. Right? And they're pushing, and it's frightening. And it's frightening. And we have to, aside from not becoming oblivious to the danger, right? And if we're oblivious to the danger, that in itself is the beginning of the end. Because this is what happened in the Holocaust. The Jews did not believe it could really happen. Jews and Jewry did not really believe it could happen. It happened at the time of the destruction of the Batei Mikdashos, right? Chazal tell us, it's in the history. They didn't believe it would really happen. Hashem wouldn't let it happen. Base of Mikdash, Hashem was not going to let his house be destroyed. Hashem was not going to let his people be dominated by another nation, right? And the Sfarim say that when the divine decree is issued, part of the decree is that your intelligence gets affected, and it's not, and you kind of fall into a sleep. So it's not the same like Paro, where Hashem actually suspended free will, right? But it takes work. You don't deserve to be helped to do tshuva, right? That's going to take a lot of work to wake yourself up. You don't deserve to be helped to do tshuva because you weren't interested in doing tshuva when you already got your wake-up call. You ignored your wake-up call, so now you're going to fall asleep. Now, your free will is not suspended, right? But you're not naturally inclined because, the mind, when we spoke about this, is influenced by society, but could also be influenced by cosmic energy. Call it a baskol, right? It's not prophecy, mamish. Right, but the mind is influenced. It's influenced by that, but it picks up vibes. And Akash who calls to us to do tshuva every single day. That's we all learned Pirkei Avos, before Shavuos. Maybe we didn't because social distancing, so we weren't in shul to be reminded to do Pirkei Avos. But say Basko Me'archar, but Basko comes out from Har Sinai every single day. You are so denigrating Torah study. You're not looking. So, the Baal Shem Tov says, what does the Mishnah mean? Basko doesn't mean you hear it in your ears. Basko means if you care and you have an open mind, open heart, you get influenced to do tshuva. You get influenced. I have to learn more Torah. And we've shut our eyes and ears to that Basko. And we got the wake-up call of COVID-19, right? Should have been a severe wake-up. We were thrown out of shul. That's like a gullus on top of a gullus, because after gullus, at least we have our shuls. We got thrown out of shul, right? We ignored the wake-up call. And I said, we spoke in this forum, we have to think, society is dissolving. Social distancing, maybe the way we used to get together is unhealthy. And we have to vow to that when Hashem will just take this away, we'll get together in a good way, right? And we spoke about this extensively, in this very forum, right? We ignored it. We ignored the call, right? We were Bekeri. Now we go Hamas Keri. Bekeri means, coincidence. Coincidence means no order. Yeah, these things happen. There's no message. There's no real connection. Things happen. What are you going to get? Mida Krega Mida. The total collapse of all order. If you don't want to see order, you don't want to see a message, you don't want to see a connection, of course, all structure, Mida Krega Mida, should fall apart on you. And Ramchal writes in the Das Tvunos, right? You think that the biggest divine vengeance is when you are punished? No, that's not the worst thing. That's not the worst thing. That's not the biggest Hester punishment, because at least when the wicked are punished, that's a form of divine revelation. It's not pleasant, but it's a form of divine revelation. A, and B, the immediate results of that is that you're cleaned up. Right? You either do tshuva or at least you get atonement, and so it's the aftermath is all sweet, right? The worst divine vengeance is for God to let the world run in chaos. That's the heaviest Hester punishment. The removal of all law and order. Right? That's God hiding himself the most. Right? And now, and since God is not the one cleaning you up, so being pillaged, doesn't give you the same type of kapara and tikkun like if Hashem gave you your measured out dose. Hashem is hiding and you're not getting cleaned up, right? Because at least to be punished from God, it's a divine revelation, which has its immediate benefits of getting the medicine that you need. And that's being hidden. So the world running amok, right, in chaos. That's the biggest. That's the Hamas Keri, the anger. You went Bekeri, you get Hamas Keri. Right? So these words that we read should be ringing everyone's ears. It's only a couple weeks later, and we see it happening, and it's scary. Right? Before we could go out with our masks on. Now we can't even go out after 8 p.m. because our lives are in danger. We have to wake up. We have to wake up. Now we have to look deeper, and see the correlation. So we draw a direct line between COVID-19 to the riots and protesting. which is far from over, because there's the political aftermath of abolishing law and order, and who knows where they're going to ride this to. God help us, right? But let's try to think, because whatever happens to us, and like we said at the beginning of the study, even what happens to other people, but we see it, it's all Hashem holding up a mirror to us. We have to learn from what's happening what we must be doing wrong, and we have to also correlate it to the time that it's happening, right? It is happening all around the time of the Omer and Matan Torah, right? It's not happening during the 3 weeks, which, as we know, is a general time for being taken to task for our sins, right? 3 weeks is that's the 3 weeks that are parallel to everything that's wrong with the universe, which all amounts to the fact there's no Gilui Shechina in the world, right? That God is hidden in the world, right? Justice is hidden in the world. But this is not happening during the 3 weeks. It's happening, around the time of Matan Torah, right? So we have to think, we have to look for the connection and look for the message, all right? So we'll start off with the famous Mechilta, everyone knows, and no one really ever thinks about, and I didn't used to think about it until my Rosh Hashiva, Zichron Livracha, explained it to me. Right? A famous story all the kids grow up on, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu first offered the Torah to the other nations, and he offered it to Esav, to the Edom. And they said, Mike Siva, baby, Baruch Hashem, what's written in this Torah of yours? And he's, Lo Sirtzach. I can't handle that. That's Yitzchak Avinu said, Yitzchak Avinu said, I live by the sword. This Torah thing is not for me. Right? So then he offered it to Yishmael, the Ishmaelim, right? And asked Mike Siva Bey, say, Lo Signo, we can't steal. That's what we do. That's how we make our living. No, this is not for us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu offered it to Klaiso, and they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. Right? Everyone knows that. So now here's the question, right? That no one thinks about. There was never a society on earth that ever legalized theft or murder. Never. No society could last a week if it's perfectly permissible, to steal or kill. Now, even the Dora Mabul, right? First of all, never says it was legal there. Never says it was legal, right? Presumably, it was still illegal when everyone did it. B, when everyone started doing it, now Hashem says, "Lo nechtam gzar dinam ela gezel." Because Baruch Hu himself destroyed the world. When theft became rampant, right? So it never lasts, but it never was legal. People have to at least pretend, right? Because there has to be what you call social contract. Because you're not safe. You're not safe. No one's safe if it's perfectly legal to steal or kill. Let alone both. Right? No one is safe. Right? So no society in their right minds would ever legalize these things. Right? And as the Kuzri points out, even a band of thieves, that's what they do, they amongst themselves in their den of thieves, if you steal from one or the other, you get severely punished. So any group has to have internally a code of not stealing and not killing. Otherwise, no society, even a society of thieves, can't last, unless they have the honor that they don't steal from each other. They don't kill each other. So that's how they could work together in their den of thieves, right? So no group ever allowed free stealing and killing. So what is the Medrash talking about? In the Roman Empire, Edom, was it mutter to kill? Absolutely not. Right? In the Arab countries, is it mutter to steal? Of course not. You know what it says in the Quran, the guy who steals? Not pretty. What does it mean? What does it mean? So Rashiva Zechrona Livracha said, with Yaakov Weinberg, right? Of course, Edom says you shouldn't kill, but we want to decide when it's called murder and when not. We get to decide. Yeah, so generally, no kill, but the Torah's lo sirtzach is an absolute standard that includes not killing anybody, even if you're angry, right? Even if you feel like rioting because you're PO'd at what happened to, someone in Minnesota, you still can't kill cops, right? Right? You can't kill the unborn, no matter how much it inconveniences the life of the mother, right? It's an absolute standard. All lives matter. All lives matter, regardless of race, born or unborn. All lives matter. In other words, I can't handle that. Abortion is good money, right? War is good money, right? Good at war, right? Good at abortion, good at war. We can't have that. The Torah wants an absolute value of all lives matter. All lives matter. Under all conditions, all lives matter, right? Born or unborn. Right? Same thing, right? Of course, even thieves don't steal from each other, but thieves will steal from other people. Right? So of course, in the Ishmaeli society, they amongst themselves don't steal, but depends. Depends. How do you define that? Torah wanted absolute value, especially for Bnei Noach. We'll decide. We'll decide. Could be there's some amount that's negligible theft. There's some theft we can legalize, like banks charging you through the nose. Ridiculous interest rates, right? Late fees, penalties. Right? The Torah demanded an absolute standard of all lives matter and all theft is wrong. Right? Not just the ones that are politically important. Right? So all lives matter, right? Do you know that most Black people are killed by their fellow Blacks? And a very small number, to the point that if you read the numbers, there is no real evidence. And I'm sorry to say, I should not be understood as insensitive, but if that officer killed George Floyd, he has to be thrown away, thrown into jail with the key thrown away. If that is what after due process is clarified, right? All right, that doesn't mean, right? That doesn't mean, right, that that's the only type of murder that's reprehensible. If a Black man kills another Black man, that's not murder. That's where most Black lives are taken. That doesn't get any attention. Right? That's not, it's that those types of murders are not as politically valuable. And the Torah's lo sirtzach doesn't care. Now, I have to say something. I said this in Israel. Everyone knows I lived in Israel for 22 years, and I did my best to extend my stay there as many years as possible till I just couldn't hold out anymore. But 22 years is pretty serious. And on one Tisha B'Av, so it was during one of those unfortunately many years when the Jews suffered from Palestinian terror. Palestinian terror, which, by the way, these anarchists, making a big deal out of this killing in Minnesota, they're not our friends. These are the pro-Palestinian people. There's a much bigger thing going on over here, which we'll explain. But just to be fair, and to have an objective discussion. Right? So it was one of those years that there were incidents. I mean, God, every incident is terrible, right? Every incident is terrible. Every time a Jew dies at the hands of an anti-Semite, it's horrible. And there was a slogan. There was a slogan: Dam Yehudi Eno Hefker. Jewish blood is not hefker. Jewish blood is not ownerless. You can't treat Jewish blood as if it's like a discarded object you find in the street. Want it, take it. If not, kick it down the road. Whatever. Dam Yehudi Eno Hefker. Right. And there were X amount of incidents that year where that coin was termed, right? And I said this on Tisha B'Av, and I said it with tears in my eyes. I said, do we really believe Dam Yehudi Eino Hefker? Do you know how many Jews are killed by other Jews by reckless driving in Israel? It's like 10 times as much or more. Now, of course, a certain amount of that, it's all negligent. It was a real absolute value of Dam Yehudi Eino Hefker. You would drive better. You'd be a much more careful driver. Right? You wouldn't want to cut off, get angry at a guy for cutting you off. You wouldn't be speeding. You know, are we serious about that? So, of course, we make a big deal about the political killings, and we should. But we have to ask ourselves whether the slogans that we say, Dam Yehudi Eno Hefker, so if I really believe that, I'll be a better driver, right? A safer driver. I wouldn't cut corners, right? And I would insist that other drivers also, I would do it to change the driving culture. It is very sad. I'd say that we brush under the carpet. Now, I don't know if things have changed. I've lived in America now for 6 years, but it was a notorious problem that people were dying in traffic accidents, Jew on Jew. Now, at least we could say it's not Jew shooting Jew. Thank God. Thank God. Hashem, we're not worried. And we, at least at this point in time, we could take solace that we are a nation that would never think of doing a thing like that. A Jew actually taking a weapon to another Jew. We could take pride in that, right? But if you really believed in the value of life, you'd make sure to drive carefully. It was a notorious problem that the big elephant in the room, everyone ignored, right? And the big Chil Hashem is that it actually appeared in an Italian paper, about a year or two earlier, before I gave this schmooze one Tisha B'Av. Obviously, it was coming from a bad place. It was an anti-Semite saying the Jews complain with the Arabs, do them, the Jews, those racist Jews. Well, so Palestinians kill them. They kill themselves 10 times more often in their traffic accidents. Right? So even though that guy wasn't saying it from any good place, we have to ask ourselves, are we also, only looking for what's politically valuable as opposed to the absolute values of the Torah? But think about it. Take that to heart, right? We want law and order, right? But do we ourselves trample the law when it's convenient, when society will give us permission to? So are we upholding the absolute standards of the order of Torah? Are we upholding Nasa and Nishma? Because here's the thing, right? If we would be, so would the world. Because our mission as the chosen people, be a light unto nations, that we have an influence on the whole world. We have an influence on how everything runs. That's the power of our mitzvahs. That's the power of our Torah learning. And this is why any type of setback in the world somehow is a message for us, because somehow if we would be better, it wouldn't have happened. I'll deal with your question in a few minutes. So allow me to finish my discussion. Right. The So we have to ask ourselves whether we are practicing our values. That's a big line. Are we living our values? Of course, the people out there say it, in a contorted way for twisted agendas. But we have to ask ourselves, we're living our values. If we'd be living our values of taking to the Torah as an absolute truth, right? If we would be living that way, the world would be a different place. We'd be living that way, Mashiach would be here, and he would restore the real law and order. Right? But so the whole idea of a Torah is that there's an absolute standard that can't be played with. That it's from God, so it is at least an absolute truth, and we, as the receivers of Torah, accept it on that basis of Naaseh v'nishma, that we won't play with it, we won't contort it, we won't warp it, we won't try to work around it. Okay, so now let's talk about another thing about Matan Torah. Kol asher diber Hashem Naaseh, we said on the 3rd of Sivan. And then again on the 5th of Sivan, we repeated, Kol asher diber Hashem Naaseh v'nishma. And Chazal talk about this was our greatness. We said Naaseh before Nishma. Let's analyze that. Right? Do before we were here. The unconditional doing, and only then understanding. Right? There's so the Vilna Gaon says he drives the point home by in decoding. We said Naaseh before Nishma. If I would listen unconditionally, so let's say Nishma first. So what? I'll do it. I'm not. So what if I want to understand it first? I'll do it. No. Well, what's the idea? Higdimu Naaseh l'Nishma. Right? So the Vilna Gaon on the points out the Gemara says regarding a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, "Ketapuach batei yar kein bodi ben abonim," like the esrog tree. Tapuach is not an apple, as it's commonly mistranslated. Tapuach is actually an esrog. An esrog, like the esrog tree in the fields of the forest, so also is my beloved amongst the men. Just like Tapuach about Pirokrav, the fruit bud actually comes out before the leaf. So also Am Yisrael said Naaseh before Nishma. Right? The fruit bud comes out before the leaf. So also Am Yisrael said Naaseh before Nishma. What's the correlation? Says the Vilna Gaon like this: the fruit is the goal. The leaf is there to protect and enhance the fruit, enhance the tree. Right? But the fruit is the goal. Right? Right? If you eat the leaves of the tree, but the tree wasn't grown for that purpose, you make a borei priya adama. Borei priya eitz is on the thing that is the goal for which the tree was planted. Right? Naaseh is perio, saying Naaseh for Nishma is perio kodamala. That's the fruit before the leaf. That is the goal. The goal is to do. What Akash wants is results. He doesn't want narrative. He wants results. So I want to get into this softly, with a little irony that I found out. An irony that I chanced upon. But it's a lesson that hit me. And I'm probably overreading in the incident itself, but the lesson is true. Right? It was after Shavuos. So amongst the things I want to know is what's going on in Israel, because there's COVID-19 there also, regrettably, and sadly, it's beginning to have a second wave. Hashem help us. Hashem help us. But the Israelis, by and large, are getting on with their lives a lot better than we are. Most things are open. Is that they're closing them down again, at least the schools, one by one. Hashem help us. Right? But Baruch Hashem, no fatalities as far as Hashem. So now you want to know every Jew wants to know what's going on in Israel after Yom Tov, let alone myself, that I have a married son and a daughter-in-law and a new granddaughter, Baruch Hashem. Recently became a grandfather. Baruch Hashem, Chas Hashem, little Miriam Malka Bechhofer should grow to be the Torah, Leben Torah, Chuppah Masim Tevim, Baruch Yom Shana. A beautiful little girl. right? So of course I want to know what's going on in Israel right away. So there's a Israeli Haredi Israeli website. So I click on to see what's going on, and there was a link, for a post Shavuos kumsitz, right? Now listen, everyone's got to chill a little bit after a 2-day Yom Tov, you know. So I click on the link. All right, and there was and the topic of the kumsitz, there was a theme to the kumsitz. The guy together sing, and there was a band there. There's actually real professional singers, and it was a special. They got together. There was a how they did it with the COVID-19. I'm not so sure. Social distancing was properly observed. None of my business, right? But there was a theme to it. We're going to sing Shirei Torah for the next 2 hours. We're going to sing songs that relate to Torah and Torah learning after Shavuos. We're going to sing about Torah, right? Now, I personally did not like the music. Not that I'm musically attuned anyway. But listened for a few minutes, shut it off. But then, after moving on, a thought struck me. Right? The crazy irony. We're going to spend 2 hours singing about Torah and how much we love Torah, right? What's going to happen at the end of those 2 hours? So let's say that was at 9 p.m., right? We're going to sing till 11 p.m. What's going to happen at 11 p.m.? We're going to go to sleep. So for 2 hours, you're going to sing how much you love Torah, right? And limud Torah, and then you're going to go to sleep, and you didn't learn a word. You had the narrative, the virtue signaling of how Torah and Torah is the most chashuv zach. Right? You didn't learn a word, right? And after you had that long kumsitz, you go straight to bed. So I'm not criticizing; it's just a message that hit me. Irony, And I said, "Naaseh v'nishma," right? To say it in Derech Drush, Nishma, you want to virtue signal and you want everyone to hear what a frum guy you are. You want to let it be heard. Oh, that virtual signal. That person wants Nasa. First Nasa, then Nishma, right? Results, solid results, right? And this has to do, with what's going on right now. We live in a world of virtual signaling that's not only not result oriented, right? But it has reached a point where the virtual signaling is almost generally the inverse, the inverse of what's really going on or what you're really doing. Now, I started with the example from that kumsitz because ultimately it's all our fault in the sense that we are supposed to be a light unto nations. And anything that's going on cosmically that's wrong, we have to look for it as a reflection of something that we're doing wrong. Because if we'd be doing right, we would be correcting the cosmos. So this wouldn't be happening. But we know what the left is doing. The virtue signaling, Black Lives Matter, whatever it is. And the people that virtue signal the most have not done a thing to improve the lot of Black people. Just talk about it. Collect money for it, generally for fat salaries, right? And they make a career out of it. It's like the lawyer that never wants to really resolve the case. Why didn't Obama fix the race problem if there is one? Why didn't Biden do it? As if it all started with Trump retroactively. Mikan saying lumdus for the guys who understand this. I don't want to. It's like they're timing lumdus. Mikan ulahaba from Trump and onwards limafreya. Chaim Disod by Mion. Mikan ulahaba limafreya. America's a racist country, but not when you were the president, the Black president of the United States, elected twice. Why didn't they fix it? And they don't fix it. Now, if you listen to real Black leaders who are being stifled, and we have to reach out to them. I'm gonna recap this at the end. That if we want to take practical steps, be politically active, aside from doing the main thing that we have to do, is our tshuva and our self-improvement, because what we do affects the cosmos. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us his supernatural Torah, and we should work with it to fix the world. Right? That's the theme of Matan Torah. That's nothing we shouldn't forget. So if I'm going to talk about things that we should do politically, to be politically active at this time, because we can't be quiet, right? Because if we're quiet, they'll come for us next. A. B. If we're quiet, they won't just come for us next, they'll come for us now and accuse us of being complicit with the racism. So we might as well be vocal, and once we're being vocal, we had better be vocal with the truth, as I'll explain, right? But, it is happening Shavuos time to remind us, above all, that, whatever the Jewish organizations are thinking about as far as the political savvy, things to say, statements to make, right? So we don't get caught in the crossfire. We must remember that our real superpower, not secret power, superpower. It's not a secret. It is when we use it, everyone sees it, everyone feels it. Our superpower is our Torah. That's our superpower. It sets our minds straight with absolute standards that aren't bent by public opinion and whim and passions and drives and manipulation and incitement, right? But it's from God, and we have that divine power in us, so we could reshape the world with it. Our real superpower is our Torah. That's why it's all happening in Matan Torah. God gave us His Torah, not just He gave us the Torah itself. That's what it means. It came from heaven to earth. Wait a minute, leave it in heaven. Just tell us what's written up there, right? No, God gave us the Torah itself. Our superpower is the Torah. Right? And we could reshape reality. And if we make tikkunim in ourselves, the koach Torah, we will change the world. That's our real power to change things, right? But should we ever become politically active also, right? Because we have to make a shtadlus, right? We have to reach out to those black leaders. I'm just going to throw out some names like Larry Elder, right? Candace Owens, Fergus Owens, right? Just to give a few examples. Conservative black leaders that are screaming from the top of their lungs, but being drowned out by their own and by, privileged white people that want this narrative, right? Right? They're being called Uncle Toms. They're saying racism is not what's holding the black people back. What's holding the black people back is the fact that they don't, unfortunately, most families don't have fathers, right? Women are getting, pregnant at young ages, and the guy who gets pregnant runs off, right? There's the being stuck in and not being allowed to go to charter schools, being stuck in failing, government schools. Where the black people are failing the most are in towns run by Democrats. Frequently, the elected officials there are themselves are black. It's all baloney, right? And if we really want to help the black people, nasa, real results, not narrative, the left gives you narrative. They talk about it. And they get high on talking about it, and they make money from talking about it. And then they cause, chaos in Washington. And the main thing is just to hurt Trump, right? Name the black person they actually helped. One black person they actually helped, right? Right? If we would cut in, deal with the conservative black leaders, right, and work with them, we could actually give nasa, real help to the black people and give them what they really need, not the narrative that's being weaved, at their expense. The narrative makers are the ones who are victimizing them. Right? It's a sad truth, but that's but in this day and age, it's all about narrative. It's all about nishma, not about nasa, right? And it's reached insane proportions, and it's gotten out of hand. We'll end with one idea. This monologue took much longer than I anticipated. And I see there's a few questions on the screen that I have not read yet, and I will deal with them. Right? Be faithful to the nature of the forum. That's really supposed to be a forum to ask questions. Okay. But my Rabbi, Rav Moshe Shapiro, told me a story that he had heard from Cheskel Abramsky. that Cheskel Bramsky was jailed by the Soviets. No, it was, the Soviets were the masters of propaganda. Before it was the left, you know, and propaganda narrative was that's the original sin, the Nachash, right? The Nachash spun a narrative for Adam and Chava, the serpent, the snake in Eden. They spun a narrative and they bought it. The narrative that was the first thing from the truth, right? So now, of course, the state newspaper of the Soviets was the Pravda. Now, what does Pravda mean in Russian? Truth, right? So Heskel Bramsky asked the rhetorical question, why do they call it Pravda, truth? It's all lies. And he said the amazing thing, an unbelievable thought. They wanted an absolute lie, that even the name of the paper should be a lie. They should call the paper lies. That would be the truth. So they call it truth. So even the name of the paper should be the perfect lie. And there's a message there. The perfect lie, of course, masquerades as the truth. What the liar should admit that he's a liar, right? There are these terrible lies going on at the expense of the black people, and just manipulating the goodness of American heart, But and they're doing it to bring chaos to the world, In the name of kindness and justice, they want to rip down the justice system, rip down the policing system, right? Put a senile man in office. That's chaos. Put a man who's certifiably senile in office, to heal the spirit of the nation. It's insane. But that's what they want. They want the total collapse of all law and order, because that's what Satan wants ultimately. It's people think, no, God wants me to have the spiritual. Satan wants me to have the physical. Satan doesn't want you to have anything, not the spiritual, not the physical. But but of course, if he tells you that, you're not going to listen to it, right? You're not going to listen to the Yetzer Hara. So he claims that he's looking out for your earthly interests, or sometimes he even claims to be looking out for social justice. Another meaningless word. It's a meaningless word, right? He manipulates you, but in the end, he strips you of everything, because law and order is from God. It's an extension of God's creation. He just created the world, he created the cosmic order. Right? It is all about a rebellion from God. And ultimately, they're going to come after us, the Jewish people. Right? It's a medrash in Vayikra Rabbah, and every time I say it, I shudder. And we're going to say it again. Right? That Cain killed Hevel. Right? So said Esav years later, Cain was an idiot. Right? Hevel was, as it were, represented the Jewish people. He killed Hevel, but then Adam had Chase, had Seth, which came ultimately Avram Avinu, Noach, Avram Avinu. Do it right, you have to kill not just your brother, you have to kill your father also. And Chazal bring proof that Esav was conspiring not just to kill Yaakov, but even Yitzchak. Right? Years later, says Paro about Esav, Esav was an idiot, right? That's not how you kill the Jewish people, because while he was making plans and plans and plans, right, to how he's going to eliminate Yitzchak to avoid Yitzchak having more Jewish kids, right? Meantime, Yaakov goes off to the house of Lavan and has the 12 tribes of Israel. That's not the way you do it. You have to immediately kill all the male folk. So that's called Ben Hayor Tashlichu. Right? Centuries later, Haman says, Shaitaya Paro. Paro was an idiot. He didn't know what he was saying. Right? Because, he killed the male folk, but they're women. He left the Jewish women alive, and the Jewish women had Jewish babies. Right? And then the Jewish women make sure, to make sure that their husbands would get them pregnant, as is well known. That was the source of Noshim Tzidkonius. You got to kill everybody. Total genocide. And so that's why Haman decreed to kill the men, the women, the children. You got to kill everybody. Don't leave any survivors, because the Jewish people will just restart from those. So you got to kill everybody. And the world has been in Haman mode up to recent times, including Hitler and the Palestinians that want to drive all the Jews into the sea. Still in Hitler, Haman Hitler mode, right? But then the Medrash predicts, and we're there now. We are there now. Oh my God, we're there now. Medrash predicts that at the end of time, Gog, right, which is clear to me now, Gog is the leftist. And the next world war is not going to be a particular nation, because it's going to be a world war of left versus right. And that's the secret, that for George Floyd, there are demonstrations in England. There are demonstrations in Iceland, demonstrations in Germany. It's crazy. It's all about grabbing a ride, to bring down what America stands for. Trump administration, what America stands for, and ultimately the Jewish people, ultimately what religion stands for. Law and order, right? Right? Gog says, right, and we're there already. We've been there for already a couple of decades, I would say. Gog says, you want to kill the Jewish people, you got to kill God first. You got to kill God first. They have a great patron. It's an patron gadol b'shamayim. They have a great patron in heaven. So if you want to kill out the Jewish people, you got to kill God first, because he protects them. And that's in the future, Gog will make war against God in order to take down the Jewish people. Right? So the Shloah Kodesh says, how is Gog going to take down God? What was he thinking? By what weapon? Says the Shloah Kodesh, or almost 500 years ago. Says the Shloah Kodesh, right? They will spread propaganda and cause people to be detached from God. Religion is outdated. Religion is immoral, right? Religious people are racist, right? Right? They're going to spread lies about God, religion, with their propaganda, and talking about alternate versions, alternate truths, as if the Bible is a racist book. The Bible is a racist book. The Bible is a bigoted book. The Talmud is a bigoted book, right? They're going with the power of propaganda and false narrative, right? And virtual signaling, for things that, aren't really virtues at all. They're pseudo virtues, certainly nothing that breeds any real results, right? They make God anywhere between irrelevant to hated. That's how you make war with God. Make God irrelevant. And that way you detach people from God. And that's called to kill God, to make him irrelevant. And if the Jewish people get influenced by that, they've lost their great protector, because they alienated themselves from him. That's how you bring down God. And we have to make sure that we don't get influenced. I say, and it's a sad truth, political correctness has done more to stifle the truth of Torah, the vocal truth of Torah, more than Haman, Antiochus, or any other Jew hater that tried to abolish Torah. More than the Greeks, more than the Romans. Political correctness has us so scared, as a sitting back and not condemning pillaging, as a sitting back and taking a lot of things quietly, right? We can't let that happen. We can't let that happen. We have to be vigilant. We have to be unashamed. We have to be vocal that there's a master of the universe. There is a law and order, and it is the Torah. And if we want to be politically active also, so we have to reach out to our brothers, the believing conservative goyim, particularly the believing conservative Black community, people like Candace Owens, Burgess Owens, Larry Elder, just a few names off the top of my head. And we have to work with them to bring real results, real benefit for the African American community, and stand hand in hand together, because the people on the social justice, virtual signal side, they're anti-God, they're anti-Israel, they're anti-law and order. May Hashem help us. All right, this is the message I wanted to share with you. And now I will deal with the questions on the screen in the order that they appeared on the screen. Is it anarchy to rebel against tyranny, which I believe the government has been in the past months, that is restoring order? USA was founded on a riot against England. Okay, I'm not. There's something in the grammar over here that's confusing me, but let me say like this: that it is correct to make a revolution if the governing body is corrupt, right? But who decides that? Who decides that? Now, the Chafetz Chaim honestly believed, and it's well documented, that the Jewish people should take up arms against Stalin. There should be an armed rebellion. Stalin is out to extinguish the light of Torah. Well, it's typical leftists. The leftists want to have a monopoly on the truth. So whether it's communist Russia, whether it's Antifa, whether it's the Democrats, right? They wanted a monopoly of truth. That's non-negotiable. You got it. He felt that there should be insurrection, and open rebellion. Jewish people should openly take up arms against Stalin, the Jews in Russia, and all Jews should join them. That's what the Maccabees did. To their Greek overlords, right? But they tried to do for the Romans, except that the timing wasn't right. And they could have made some deals that they didn't, like Chazal tell us, like Josephus tells us. The rebellion against the Romans was not the right thing at the right time for a variety of reasons. They couldn't win, so we're definitely not right. B is it seems that they could have made deals, right? But with the Greeks, it was the right thing. The rebellion of the Maccabees. Now, here's the thing. There's two things. Number one, there's nothing worse than chaos. Let's say you drive out the Greeks, but the Maccabees, the Hashmonaim would have not set up their own kingdom. I don't think that would have been a good thing. It would have been anarchy. It would have been horrible, right? It's like, you do a revolution when it's the right thing, with the understanding that you're going to give law and order afterwards. Not leave things lawless, then you're worse off, not better. Because I'll tell you, pray that Malchus, there should be kingdom on earth. There should be government on earth. Any government, because if not, people will eat each other alive, right? So that's point number one. If you're going to make a revolution, right? Not point number one. Not that's the more important point. I think it's the secondary point. Just the first point that's coming out of my mouth, right? If you're going to make a revolution, you better have a plan for law and order the day after. A. But, B, which is the more important point, so I'm going in ascending order of importance, how do you decide when it's time for revolution? Who are you to decide that people should now take up arms against the government? So Nazi Germany would have been the right thing, clearly an immoral government, right? The Hashmonaim against the Greeks, clearly an immoral government. Take it down. Absolutely. Right? Chafetz Chaim, Jews should have taken down Stalin. It wasn't clear how, if they would have the military might, but the Chafetz Chaim believed that Hashem would help if they have the guts to do it. And so it's documented. Okay. So now we are privileged to have a Torah. We have the privilege of having a Torah, right? Thank God. And the Torah guides us, right? And the Torah is the absolute truth in the Creator. So we could be confident that if the Torah declares a government immoral, right? We can have confidence in the moral right to overthrow that government. Your question is more complicated for nations that don't have a Torah. On what basis should a group, overthrow the ruling government? What gives them the right? What makes them so sure that they're more morally correct? You're 100% right. But we have a Torah, and that guides us. as to when it's the right, when someone's in the morally right or in the moral wrong. And the American government, as it is under President Trump, is as morally right as it's ever been. And those who are trying to overthrow it are very clearly in the moral wrong, whether it's their stance on Israel, stance on abortion, and just stance on law and order. Okay, your next question. What should one do to stop the police that do whatever they want? If they've been given false tickets from police, they must be stopped. I don't really care if it's done in an improper manner. Well, first of all, do you think because a cop gave you a ticket that you don't deserve, you kill him? It's called going to court. Look, my friend, you're a bright guy. That's what the courts are for. And that we have that in Jewish law also, right? They're the authorities of the king. They are the authorities of the rabbis. But if you don't like it, you take them to Bezdin, right? No one's above the law. You're right. Not cops either. You take them to court. That's what you do. You take them to court. That's what courts are for. That's why we have courts. We have to make sure to have a police system and a court system, and we are commanded to have both in the Torah. Show in the same pasuk. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sharecha. Have judges and cops in all your cities. And so first of all, the cops have to execute what the courts say, but vice versa. You have recourse by going to court. Now, I'm sorry, if they're bad cops, they're bad cops, Well, that's what the courts are for. And it is a problem of tircha b'beidina. The Gemara says that, the Gemara says that, that's why we cut deals sometimes to save tircha b'beidina, right? It's a pain in the neck, but, what can we do? That's the occupational hazard of God tolerating that there should be free will so people could do bad. But at least we have a divinely mandated countermeasure of a court system, which, by the way, the Nohites, it's one of their 7 mitzvahs to set up a just court system, which obviously, if done right, there should be a way to file a complaint and have a fair trial if you have a complaint against a policeman. Next question. I think we take a lesson from the riots that why don't we stand up and continue dominating shul? Why are the rabbis afraid to stand up against our terrible government, fight our rights? I think you're right. Regarding the third issue on the screen, going from top down, I think you're 100% right. I think you're 100% right. And it happens to be the same people. It's the Democrats, these same people that are banning us from shul. And they call a person who opens his business to feed his wife and children selfish, right? They're not calling out the protesters for not social distancing. You are 100% right. And the hypocrisy is, and I meant to point this out, and thank you for that question. That is the hypocrisy on the left, right? Because the common denominator is that they want to collapse society. So when people are being peaceful, don't let them go to work and throw them into poverty, right? Right? So that's to dissolve society. And now they cranked up from dissolving society to burn down society. It's something very interesting. When that woman in Texas, that hairdresser in Texas, was thrown into jail, the Republican governor felt terrible. He said, I didn't mean for this to happen, that if a woman has to disobey the order to feed her family, and he retroactively retconned his thing that no one ever could be thrown into jail for violating the order to support their family, right? And that's it. And that's why I say, if we will be politically active, we must reach out to Republicans and conservatives, and particularly to show that we love all men and all men was made in the image of God, reach out to the African American community. But to the people who really want to help and who are our real allies, the conservative Black leaders who just want results for their community, and that's why they are pro-Trump. Okay, final thing on the screen. As regards to taking police to court, we know they are always giving the upper hand. You must bring proofs to overturn them. Yes, I understand what you're saying. Fortunately, I never had to go to court against the cop. But there's 2 things I have to say, right? Right? first of all, right? Three things. First of all, therefore, do your best to not get caught by a cop, since they do have the upper hand in court. Number two, right, is that even though it's an unfortunate situation that the burden of proof is on you when the cop gives you a ticket, right? But nonetheless, it's not impossible. And I met people that have services about, some of them are unreliable, but I've met some people that are reliable, that have excellent track records in fighting traffic tickets in court for you. They're not even licensed lawyers, but they have a way of doing it. They come with you and they make deals. But thirdly, and most importantly, all right, we are still in Golus. We are still in exile. And it is not a coincidence that, the way that the Nevi'im discuss what will be when Mashiach comes and discuss what we have to do to be virtuous to make Mashiach come is pursuit of justice, pursuit of justice, pursuit of justice. Right? So, yes, sometimes you suffer injustice in court, and because there's injustice in the world, and that should want to increase our, first of all, make us aware that the world's not perfect and we need Mashiach. And we have to daven for justice and the restoration of justice and seek justice, and that will repair the injustice in the world. Okay, are there any more questions? Are there any more questions? If not, we'll call it a night. My monologue took longer than expected. I hope that when we get together, make sure to tune in. I don't have the exact link, but make sure to tune in Motzei Shabbos 10:30, another Hashkafa with Rabbi Bechhofer. I am hopeful that between now and then things will calm down out there, and we could discuss more philosophical concepts, and not have to talk about current events. But to get there, we really must repent. We must, not fall in with the herd. I hope the Jewish organizations don't fall in with the herd, for the sake of looking woke and politically correct. We have to, not be swayed by public opinion that's gone crazy, and B, do our best to fight for the Torah justice, and get more serious about our mission of being the light unto nations, and that's what's going to fix the world, right? And that's the most important point. But if we are going to be politically active, we must reach over to our fellow, Republicans, conservatives, and the conservative Black leaders. Okay, any more questions for tonight? Any more questions? All right, everyone should have a good Shabbos, a peaceful Shabbos, a peaceful Shabbos. Keep safe, but let's do tshuva. Chazal tell us, Shabbos is a day of me'ein olam haba. If we'd only keep Shabbos perfectly, Mashiach would come. We need to keep 2 Shabboses perfectly. So hopefully we kept last Shabbos well, and there's just one more Shabbos and we'll all be free, as the old song goes. If not, let this be the first of the 2, and let's, with the merit of Shabbos, which is also the day that Torah was given. That's why it's very connected. But I'm exhausted. I can't explain right now how Shabbos is in time, what Torah is in space, or in soul, right? So with the merit of Shabbos, we should come out of Shabbos and then see a new world in the positive sense, where divine justice is reigning, and Hashem will be king over the whole world, and he and his name will be one. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos.